And let's quickly get started with some breaking news that is coming in from Sri Lanka. Now we're getting to know that the Sri Lankan President, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, has left the country. He is in a nearby country and will be back in the island nation by Wednesday. Reports suggest that Sri Lanka's, these are the reports that have been suggested by one of the Sri Lankan news wires citing the speaker. In fact, we're also learning that the new president would be elected on the 20th of July by the parliament if the current president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, resigns. Now, as the island nation continues to slip into more chaos, Sri Lanka's entire cabinet, the ministers, have resigned. Meanwhile, the anti-government protesters continue to occupy the presidential as well as the prime ministerial residences, saying that they will only move when both the leaders officially step down. Remember, the protesters breached the presidential palace over the weekend and since then have not moved from the spot. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has said, remember, that he will be stepping down officially on July 13, that is day after tomorrow on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has also said that he will make way for an all-party government to take over. All right, I'm being joined by N. Satyamurthy live on the broadcast, a very prominent political analyst and commentator joining us from Chennai. Sir, a very good evening to you and thank you for speaking to me right now. Now, I want to begin here by asking you that what led to this absolute economic and political mess? Was there any way that this could have been averted well in time?
The problem with the Sri Lankan economy is not its own man's creation. It has been happening almost since independence. First, they had inherited the Western capitalist model from the British. Then from 1955-56, for another 10 years, they had a socialist model even for another 5 years from 1971, they had a socialist model when everything was nationalized, including newspapers, private hotels, etc. Then in 1978, the Jayavardhana as president introduced economic reforms. That also did not solve the problem because most of the agriculture sector was killed at that time because of import of dairy products, fruits, everything that was produced in the country. This affected the farming community very badly, agriculture very badly, and also contributed the exit of forex on unnecessary imports. Then came the Rajapaksa regime and all that over the past 20-25 years. And like in most socialist countries, which is inevitable small and socialist countries with no job opportunities in the private sector, where there is no major manufacturing, government became the single largest employer. Today, for a population of 2.2 crore, they have got 14 lakh government employees. You can imagine the kind of salary outgo for such a large staffing pattern, but then that could not be held. But in the immediate context, 2 or 3 factors. One, tourism, a major forex earner, collapsed because of the Eastern bombing in 2019, in which about 50 foreigners were killed. Then immediately followed by COVID lockdown for 2 years. COVID lockdown also meant foreign remittances, inward remittances from men and women, Sri Lankan men and women working outside, say Gulf or other countries, either as mechanics or housemates. That also stopped. It was a substantial portion of their foreign earnings. These are some of the factors. Then, of course, as all of us know, President Gotabaya introduced this overnight shift to organic farming, which meant the chemical fertilizer import was banned overnight. Now, without any preparation, without any second thought, without any education of the farming community, tea exports, that was another one of the 3 forex earners, that collapsed. Then, at a time when earnings were limited and the farming community was supporting rural families, with the paddy and other produce. That also collapsed in the absence of fertilizers. This was the immediate provocation for the economic collapse and also the exit of the Rajapaksas. Because rural farmers who were of the single household, who were the backbone of the Rajapaksas, they decided enough was enough.
All right, so the economic crisis is very unfortunately not just limited to the island nation of Sri Lanka. Even from Europe to Asia to Africa, many emerging economies are slipping into chaos and utmost pandemonium. So what do you think are the reasons behind this?
We have to understand one thing. As if coincidence would have it, it's all happening in South Asia, countries outside India. All our neighbors, none of them is an economically viable entity in the modern sense of the term. When they have to provide and address the consumerist aspirations of their people. Where they don't have a market facility, they don't have a market. Whereas given the sizes, India is both the manufacturing economy, it is an agricultural surplus economy for the past several decades. And 3, we have a local consumer market, independent of imports or exports. These 3 are sustained. It is not only Sri Lanka. Other countries, other economies in the neighborhood, particularly after COVID, are facing near similar situations. But the kind of, as I said, the agriculture crisis that Gota invited on himself and the nation, that did not happen.
All right. So moving to another key question, we saw in fact visuals of the pool parties and the picnic galas. Do these events, in the capital Colombo somewhere point to the reimagining of the country, the creation of a new citizen's identity in Sri Lanka, keeping in mind how the irate Lankans have taken to the streets and have refused to budge till the president and the prime minister officially stepped down?
Yes, it is not going. No, President and Prime Minister may go before in the next couple of days. That is not the issue. A new political culture has occurred where might has become right. In fact, one of the leaders of the protest movements, the left of center political party called the Frontline Socialist Party, Premakumar Gunaratnam, has openly said today that we need a change of system. We made this difference. We imposed this difference outside the constitution, outside the legal framework, surely by organizing the people. This was obviously in response to Prime Minister Vikramasinghe's declaration that he was here to protect the constitution. He would not allow the government to be run in any way other than the constitution. So this is going to have impact on the nation's political psyche, politicians, and the masses. And within courts, to discipline these masses is going to be a very difficult task, especially in the short and medium terms. Economy has to improve, people have to get jobs, thanks to Chinese investment. Most of the white elephant projects did not bring in any jobs or income to the people. And these are factors that will say how early normalcy as is known normally can be restored. That's not going to be in the next few months or it will take a few years.
All right, sir, another final question before I let you go. So what's the road ahead? After President Gotabaya Rajapaksa goes, which he has said that he will be stepping down officially on July 13, that happens to be day after tomorrow, Wednesday. What's the road ahead and how can it have an impact on the India-Sri Lanka bilateral ties?
India, as External Affairs Minister Jaishankar said yesterday, and even otherwise, will be working with the government that is in power in Kerala. That's not going to change. India has also decided to announce that they will continue to assist the people of Sri Lanka, which means humanitarian assistance will continue, maybe other kind of a specific assistance sought by the next government. Whoever it is, whichever it is, would continue. For instance, yesterday, In the midst of all this, Indian High Commission met the outgoing agriculture minister and formally handed over 40,000 tons of chemical fertilizer that had landed in the Colombo port the day before. So that kind of a relation will continue. But internally, politically, there's an interesting situation. In fact, despite all these things, no one in the ruling SLPP parliamentary group has said they have deserted. Right now, the government has got 115 MPs, in majority in a 225-member parliament. If that continues, they will continue to dictate who will be the president, who will be the prime minister, what kind of policies. There is a division of opinion that at least Prime Minister Wickremesinghe should be allowed to continue in some form. He is the one who has started negotiation with the IMF and the state governments. But the protesters or their leaders, left of center leaders, have continuously declared they would have neither Gota nor Ranil nor any of their nominees. So there is going to be some tension, particularly because those outside, protesting from outside, have very clearly declared that they would not respect Parliament, whereas Parliament is the only constitutional institution empowered to take such decision in the medium and short terms. Thereby hangs the tail, because once Gota resigns, as he has promised, the next president will be elected by Parliament, by assembled majority, and he will continue until the conclusion of Gota's term, not before that, because every time the president decides, it goes to the prime minister.
Right.
Prime minister brought the speaker. If the speaker is not there, it goes to a senior member of parliament. Then they elect a prime president. That is how what the constitution says.
All right, Mr. N. Satyamurthy, thank you so much for your precious time to Mirror Now. I appreciate it.